Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I am a CICC licensed immigration consultant, and as always, welcome back. I am back. Somebody here told me when I was struggling to find a title for today's video, and I was really struggling. So a very nice person next to me said, "Why don't you make the title to be I am back?" As if I was John Rambo kind of a thing. But no, I'm back, and it's good, always good to be back. And obviously, this last 2 weeks where I was missing. One reason being because I managed to break this lens through which I am now streaming live, and then had to find another one. But other than that, in this last 2 weeks, so many things have happened, right? One of them, which is pretty interesting one, and we're going to talk about that one, and that has to do with the category-based draws. There was no express entry draw. Somebody actually posted on one of my comments and said, I jinxed it. I did obviously not jinxed it, and there is absolutely no way I would want to jinx something like that, especially the express entry draws, because those are always so very exciting. But so many things to talk about. I don't think we need to waste any more time. Let's get cracking. Let's see, what do we have for our presentation for this week. Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Stay up to date on the Canadian immigration news and trends. Join us and subscribe to all our platforms and channels. TikTok, we are there on TikTok, surprisingly. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, YouTube as well. Topics for discussion. I know you guys are already posting your questions. Just hold those for a little while, please, until we get to the question and Q&A section, and then we can get to all those questions as well. Don't worry, I'm in no rush today. I don't have to go anywhere. I can take a lot of time and answer your questions. So just hold those back for a minute. Let's get quickly through all these motions, and then we can get to them. So the PNP draws. Manitoba conducted a draw on the 30th of April, posted new results for the recent PNP draw. This particular draw was dedicated to welcoming immigration candidates in accordance with the provincial government special immigration measure for Ukraine. There was also another draw which happened on the same day. 451 letters of advice were issued to the candidates under this measure. On 2nd of May, also they invited candidates from 3 streams: occupation-specific selection. Then there was, for the specific occupations, nurse aides, retail and wholesale trade managers, and general construction trade. They're moving more specific, aren't they? They also issued, there's more. They also issued 66 letters of advice to candidates under the international education stream. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Of course, if you are from Manitoba and if you were waiting for this PNP draw, by now this is not news to you anymore, right? You would have already enjoyed the party that you must have thrown to, with the celebrations for this particular draw. Now, Prince Edward Islands on the 2nd of May issued 6 invitations to candidates working in 2 employment sectors, healthcare and construction. You will see this happening again and again and again throughout this stream, throughout the next few streams. You will see repeatedly construction, healthcare, skilled trade. These things will keep running. They'll keep ringing your ears, as you will see that this is a priority. 9th of May, Manitoba again conducted their second PNP draw, inviting 371 applications under the skilled worker in Manitoba, skilled worker overseas, and international education streams. Other news, that's all we had. We did not have any other draw, which was very, very surprising. Why? Because this week ideally should have been an express entry draw week, right? We were pretty excited. We were hoping, we were rather expecting that there would be a general category draw, and then there was a straight category draw, which was also anticipated. If you remember, I did a live stream a couple of weeks back, and we spoke about the ATIP notes, right, which was shared by Neil Carley, and he said, and in those ATIP notes, we were able to identify that IRCC wanted to maintain these draws on a very consistent manner, right? So they wanted to maintain it in a consistent manner. They wanted to maintain the system integrity. So to be very honest, this was quite surprising that the draw did not happen. Why did the draw not happen? I honestly, I don't know. Okay. So yeah, there have been lots of comments on lots of posts as to why did the draw not happen. Do I have an inside news? No, I don't. I don't have any inside news for that matter. But why did the draw not happen? Pretty concerning, as in every time the draw does not happen, what happens? You know that, right? That the scores go up, and then that is a concerning matter, because as it is, the scores have been ridiculously high. Somehow they managed to creep down to 529, but with this gap now, if at all we are to assume that the scores will happen next week, then the scores prospectively will, I mean, technically, logically, whatever you want to call it, they would probably go up again from 529, unless IRCC chooses to invite more people. And I'm really hoping that would happen. But let's talk about the other news as we move forward. IRCC to extend work permits for some PNP candidates in Manitoba. Now, this one is a big news, which we need to talk about more in detail. Now, what has happened is Canada's immigration minister, of course, we only have one here, Mark Miller, approved a request by the government of Manitoba. So, the immigration minister of Manitoba. So, for people who don't really know, Canada's provincial and federal government, you have an immigration minister at the federal level, then you have an immigration minister at the provincial level. So I don't know the name. So the immigration minister of Manitoba, after the candidates in Manitoba have been petitioning, have been protesting that because of the lengthy processing times of the Manitoba PNP, they were tough out of luck, right? So until and unless Manitoba would not process their PNP applications, they would not get a work permit supporting letter, or if they were in express entry, they would not be able to apply and they would not get an AOR. Therefore, they were running out of their work permits. We all know postgraduate work permits can no longer be extended in 2024. Therefore, these guys protested. These guys really got their voice to be heard by the immigration minister in Manitoba, who then, on their behalf, advocated to the federal government. And based on that, Mark Miller has approved the request and said basically that they would extend the work permits for applicants whose work permits are expiring in 2024, provided they were already in the expression of interest pool of Manitoba and were waiting for their PR applications to be processed, or they were waiting for them to be picked up. Now, the good part here is, and I'm just going to pull up, let me see if I can find that first of all. But yes, it says over here as well that while they have accepted this requisition from Manitoba, don't you think there are other people out there who are also waiting considerably? And leave aside Manitoba PNP, leave aside the processing queues. But what about the fact that, I mean, even Ontario, right? Even Ontario takes a long time, especially if you are in the international student stream, if you are in the employer's job offer stream, if you are in the, which one is that? Master's PhD stream, it can take quite some time to get your nomination. As of right now, even the skilled trade stream, the nomination can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Now, if you're being waiting for this period of time, and if your work permits are expiring, then this could be a bit tricky. So what they're saying is that the employers are losing out on some very good talent who has got the relevant experience, who have managed to get the relevant qualifications and are quite essential for their operations. Therefore, if Manitoba can get it, I'm not sure what are the other immigration ministers doing, right? For all the other provinces, why can't they advocate on behalf of their constituents and people who are in their ridings to sort of get those people also some extension, some relief, some reprieve, right? Why not? There was, by the way, again, my colleague here said I should say it's a shocking meeting of the ministers, but actually there was nothing shocking about it. It was just another of those routine meetings which happened after quite some time. And in this particular meeting, they discussed, amongst other things, temporary residents and how to reduce those numbers. I'm not sure if this aspect of the work permits came up in that meeting or not. I'm going to assume that it would have come up at some point of time, but nothing was made public at this point of time. So I'm hoping somewhere around the corner, there should be something announced for the postgraduate work permit holders. If not a blanket approval, at least for some of them out there who probably are struggling waiting for the processing times. So in this particular announcement that Mark Miller made, he said that yes, while they are going to be accepting 6,700 extensions, they will process 6,700 applications for work permit extensions, they are open to working with other Canadian provinces and territories to help transition more temporary residents into permanent residents to address the national labor market needs. Ooh, big words there, but I hope that happens. Let's see which way that goes. So fingers crossed. I'm sure a lot of you would be really looking forward to that to happen. Now, another news was that again Mark Miller, because he's the hero of all our stories, in some cases a villain as well, but in most cases right now he's had to take a lot of tough decisions. But this one was about extending the working hours for the international students. Now, what had happened is international students until the 30th of April could work full time while studying in Canada. That was extended last year, and now there was this anticipation, there was this expectation that Mark Miller would come out and announced that people could continue working full time. But that's not the case. They then anticipated that because of a previous advisory, they were considering 30 hours per week. But Mark Miller has come and announced that this is going to be 24 hours per week. That is what they can work. The logic there was 8-hour shifts. So if you work 3 days a week, that would be 24 hours. So there you go. That is what you have. International students from 1st of September onwards can work 24 hours per week. If they are in compliance of their study permit conditions. So from now, and from 1st of May onwards, they can only work 20 hours per week. So this regulation about the 24 hours per week, that will take effect from the 1st of September. So until that point of time, if you are a regular student who are studying, then you can only work for 20 hours per week. Unless, of course, you have a scheduled break, then of course you can work full time. But other than that, that was another thing that happened over the last 2 weeks. Oh, no, we have plenty more. So let's see, what else have we got? Yeah, but let's finish this presentation, and then I got to talk to you about so many other things. So yes, connect with us on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, and do all those good things that you nice people do always. Now, what else do I have? Here you go. I have got a big list of things here to talk about, right? First one is proof of funds. For people who still do not know, what are you guys doing? Living under a rock in immigration world? Proof of funds has been updated. This is a very regular thing, happens every single year. This is called LICO, low income cutoff. 6 months of annual low income cutoff is what you are referring to as proof of funds. This is the amount of funds you are expected to show for your express entry applications. Everything else stays normal, but what has happened is usually the LICO amount would go up by, proof of funds requirement would go up by a few $100, $200, $300, $400. This time it's almost starting at $1,000, and as the family size increases, it goes up to nearly $2,000 difference between the proof of funds requirement from 2023 versus what will be required in 2024 onwards. So this will take effect on the 28th of May onwards. So please go into your express entry profiles. Please update your proof of funds if you haven't done so already. This will be as per your family size. And and if you don't do it, then your express entry profiles will become ineligible. Again, for people who just have more questions every single time an announcement comes up, you guys should understand that this is applicable only to federal skilled workers. Okay, if you are Canadian experience class, you do not need proof of funds. If you are that lucky bloke who has an LMIA, you do not need proof of funds. If you are another lucky bloke who also has an arranged job offer, which basically means you are an LMIA exempt work permit in Canada, completing 1 year of work experience, then you also have arranged employment if you have that clause which says this job offer is valid for 1 year or more after you get your PR. But then since you already completed your 1 year of work experience in Canada, you're CAC. So you guys do not need to show any proof of funds. Also, people who have received their ITAs, and if you will submit your PR application before 28th of May, you do not need proof of funds. If you will submit your PR applications after the 28th of May, then you will need to update your proof of funds, and you will need to make sure that you have sufficient proof of funds to show in your applications. I hope that clarifies. There can be no confusion. And of course, as usual, if the documents required for your proof of funds is a letter from the bank which says this is your available funds, this is the account details. If the bank is not going to give you the average monthly balance for 6 months, then you need to provide 6 months bank statements. Any kind of credit in your account, any kind of deposits in your account, which is large in size. When I'm saying large in comparison, I mean, if it is just a couple of $100, that doesn't matter. But if it is a few $1,000, then you please do explain where is the money coming from, because that is the source of funds. IRCC wants to ensure that the money is not borrowed, that it actually belongs to you. That is the reason why gift deeds work pretty well here, because that money is yours being gifted to you, so it works. But other than that, Nothing else has changed as far as proof of fund is concerned. You have seen plenty of my previous videos. You would know what exactly that is all about. So this is the proof of funds. Okay. Another update is that Canadian government is now exploring. This is actually good. They are exploring. I'm not sure why they haven't done it already, but they are exploring faster deportations of failed asylum seekers. Interesting, isn't it? Why haven't they done it already? Do you know that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Canada who are living in Canada illegally? CBSA knows about it. Like, for example, these are the people whose claims were refused, and then they were asked to leave Canada, and then these guys did not leave Canada, and nobody does anything about them, right? That is what encourages people to continue to file asylum cases, refugee cases, even if they do not have a good case behind that. So what they have done is, in order to discourage people to make all these claims when they don't really have any basis of claim, that they will now be executing faster deportations. This hasn't been implemented yet, so I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but at least something good's going to come out of it. So I'm hoping that CBSA, RCMPs, and all other departments which are responsible will absolutely be, taking faster, quicker action on this, so that we can get all these people out of Canada, since they already have a failed claim. Hey, this can also help with the reduction of these numbers, right? And this can also help with the housing crisis. Can you imagine, right? And all these people who are here, in some way or the other, being illegal and not really contributing in a manner which would that's what you would require. But yeah, so that's another thing happening. Another update: parents and grandparents intake is going to open, okay, in May itself. Now, what's going to happen? What happened was, in 2020, or rather, let me take you to a bit of a background. What is parents, grandparents? Now, parents, grandparents lottery is for Canadian permanent residents and citizens. So if you are a permanent resident, if you are a citizen in Canada, then there is a provision that you could sponsor your parents for permanent residence, provided you meet the 3-year income threshold in Canada, and you participate in a lottery. And if you get picked up in that lottery, then you would be eligible to sponsor your parents. The thing is that ever since 2020, they haven't accepted any new individuals who could enter this lottery. So 2020, they had this pool of about more than 100,000 people who entered this pool, expressing their interest of wanting to sponsor their parents. And each year from there on, IRCC has been drawing from the same pool. So 2020, they drew from the same pool, 2021, 2022, 2023, and now again in 2024, IRCC will again draw from the same pool. Not fair, IRCC, not fair to all those other people who also probably want to reunite with their parents and have their parents with them in Canada as permanent residents. So yeah, that's another one. So IRCC will be inviting 35,700 sponsors, with the expectation that at least 20,500 will submit a complete application. Therefore, then inviting nearly 30,000 parents to come to Canada. Think of it this way, right? With all these, and guys, don't take an offense to this. I know sometimes people are quite sensitive at this point of time. They take offense to everything, basically. But on this one, you have to be very pragmatic and understand what I'm trying to say. You're inviting thousands and thousands of parents who are are senior citizens. You already have a very, very successful and an active super visa stream, whereby parents can come to Canada and stay there for 5 + 2 7 years. So where did the whole tax rule and the interest in wanting to have more taxpayers come to Canada go, right? Here you have international students, temporary foreign workers, young blokes. You want them to leave Canada, but you want senior citizens to come to Canada, continue to come to Canada. I mean, don't look at the sensitive aspect of it. I'm not talking about not reuniting. That's all good. Please, by all means, invite more parents, whether through super visas or through the parents, grandparents. But at the same point of time, your taxpayers, hold on to them as well, because you need them. Who's going to pay all the taxes, right? Who's going to pay for all the benefits that's going to come through? But something that the government is probably taking a look at. Obviously, we wouldn't really know what all they are looking at, right? Now, what else have I got? Effective 1st of May, LMIA rules are now also in effect. LMIA rules, basically, again, a lot of people are quite confused with LMIA rules. So let me explain this to you one more time. A few months back, in the attempt to revamp the temporary foreign worker program, IRCC came back along with the Minister of Labor, came back and said that they are going to go back. Now, when I'm saying go back, so people are freaking out that the LMIAs will now have only 6 months validity. Why are you freaking out? LMIAs always had 6 months validity. It was only during COVID that they extended the validity to 18 months. Made fair sense, because if the LMIA was being issued, it was valid for 6 months. People couldn't travel because there were all kinds of travel restrictions. There were lockdowns. So obviously the LMIAs were getting expired, right? So what they did was, very sensible way to go about it. They extended the validity of LMIAs to 18 months. And then as and when we move forward, they brought it down to 12 months. And now that there is no such thing as COVID, I mean, of course there is COVID around somewhere, but we're not bothered by it at this point of time, or it is not stopping anything. So we are bringing back the LMIA validities to 6 months. Now, what does that mean, LMIA validity to 6 months? It basically means that within this period of 6 months that the LMIA has been issued, you need to apply your work permit. Now, once the work permit is issued, the work permit is going to be either 2 years or 3 years, depending on whether it's a high wage LMIA, low wage LMIA, right? Within that period of the validity of the work permit, if you are in Canada, you're working, you can continue to claim 50 or 200 points as applicable to you for your express entry. If, of course, it's a dual, I mean, yeah, not if, but yes, it's a dual intent LMIA, right? If it's a PR supporting LMIA, means it's not a dual intent LMIA, it's a single intent. And the single intent here being PR supporting LMIA. PR supporting LMIA is applicable only for the high wage professionals. Now, for high wage LMIA, which is only PR supporting LMIA, the validity will be 6 months. And within this 6 months, you need to claim your points and submit your PR application before the expiry of this LMIA. Okay, that's the difference. So if it's a PR supporting LMIA, you need to submit your application to IRCC. Submit basically does not mean submitting an express entry profile. Submitting means you get invited, you upload all the documents, you pay the fees, you click the submit button, you get AOR. That is submit, right? So the validity is 6 months. Within the 6 months period, you need to claim your 50 or 200 points as applicable, submit your PR application within that 6 months, and bang, you're good. And if you have applied for your closed work permit, if it's a dual intent LMIA and you're applying for a closed work permit, then until the validity of, or until the expiry of that closed work permit, right until the last day, if you're working, even if the LMIA has expired, you are still eligible to claim those points in your express entry and submit your PR application. Again, you already understood what submit means. So please, guys, this is what it means by this validity of 6 months. It always was 6 months. It's again back to 6 months. So that's where the LMIA aspect is. So please don't freak out. This has come into effect from 1st of May. Of course, there are some other changes with the LMIAs as well. That is to do with the low wage LMIAs and the quotas for the foreign workers, temporary foreign workers with an employer can no longer be 30%. It is reduced to 20% unless there are some categories or there are some industry types which are exempt. Okay, what else have we got? Immigration ministers met with Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller. So they all got together. They had a meeting. I think it was yesterday. And they discussed different ways and means collectively, that they can reduce the temporary residents in Canada. Now, you know that there has been a big push that they would like to reduce the temporary residents in Canada. One of the ways they identified this was not giving spouse open work permits to students other than master's, PhD, and some bachelor's degrees which are professional. So only those students can invite their spouses on an open work permit. Others who are on a 1 year, 2 year, postgraduate diplomas, etc., can no longer invite. So that was one way of doing it. Second was PPP, private-public partnership programs. Those were no longer eligible for a postgraduate work permit. Other than that, there is also restriction on the number of international students who would now be able to apply and then get approved to come to Canada. So with all these restrictions, there is a big push in trying to curtail the number of temporary residents in Canada. In addition to that, obviously, this was for the first time that the immigration ministers of all the provinces collectively met with the Federal Immigration Minister, Mark Miller, with the intention of figuring out different ways and means collectively to reduce the number of temporary residents in Canada by at least 5%. And moving forward, the immigration levels plan for 2025, 2026, 2027, so the next 3 years. Nothing else was announced in terms of any other extensions for any other work permits at this point of time. Fingers are crossed. I'm just hoping that other immigration ministers of other provinces may probably get encouraged with what Manitoba has done. Maybe their constituents can actually go back to them and say, okay, can you guys do something for us as well? And probably, have some other provinces will also get. I think Alberta should get, because Alberta opportunity stream, that's long processing time there. Saskatchewan, long processing times there. Ontario, I already told you, long processing times there. These guys should also probably, somebody should look into their agony as well and help them get some extensions. More updates, but there are more updates. Give me a moment. Changes. There are changes in the self-employed and SUV startup visas. Now, this was a very big one, which actually shook a lot of people out here in Dubai market. It shook a lot of people here. Why? Because startup visa is a very popular business product that is being sold in this market. I mean, anybody who goes into an office here is pretty much pitched the startup visa. But what happened here is that with such an active promotion of startup visa, and because it was such a popular stream of applicants, you would only, it was only normal that more than 16,000 applications are now in process. Huge backlog, considering that per year, annually, the quota under this self-employed and startup visa, so the business immigration, these are the only two federal programs that IRCC has, was only 5,000 people per year. So when they had 16,000 of those applications, you can imagine that the processing backlog is going to be really long. And hence, IRCC had to take a difficult call where they had put this stream on hold. Which one? Okay, hold on. Startup visa is not on hold. Self-employed stream is on hold. Now, again, when things like this come up, people get more confused. So they start thinking, oh, my self-employed work experience will not be accepted in express entry. No. That's not what it means. Your express entry is untouched. Nobody's touching that. This is self-employed stream, which is completely different. It's a business immigration stream at the federal level. This was for people who were self-employed for at least 2 years in a 5-year period and wished to set up their businesses in Canada and were able to show Canadian interest. And they were in the field of art, sports, culture, the specific NOC codes, and these people were eligible to apply under this specific stream. Processing times were, again, as I said, very long. We were talking about 4 to 5 years long. So IRCC basically threw a huge hammer on this, and self-employed stream is now shut, no longer, finito, gone. At least for the next 2 to 3 years. So you're not seeing that stream. Probably after 3 years, they might revamp the stream, come back with something more different there. But startup visas, what they have done is, previously there was no restriction on startup visas in the sense like how many applications could be submitted. What they have done is, there are roughly 81, 82 designated organizations. For a startup visa, you need support of a designated organization. Designated organizations are venture capitalists, angel investors, and incubators. Venture capitalists have to pledge $200,000 support. Angel investors have to pledge a support of $75,000, and incubators don't have to give you any money or support anything, but they have to support your business incubation, right? Without the support of these DOs or designated organization, you cannot submit a startup visa application. But what IRCC has done is that out of 81 of these, they have said, okay, each one of you guys can only submit 10 applications each year, per year. So that's the limit. 81 designated organizations, only 10 applications per year, starting this year, starting now. Now, it's already in effect. And this is in effect for 3 years, which basically means each year they will accept only about 810, 820 applications for startup visas so that they can get a handle on this processing times that are gone completely out of hand. So good move, bad move, I do not know, depending on which side of the table you are on. But yes, that's the change, that's the update as far as startup visas and self-employed streams are concerned. And now the big one, right? You have to always keep the encore, right? You have to always keep it for the end, the big news. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are following me, following my channel, following my videos, watching these weekly live streams or not. But since 2022, I've been talking about category-based draws. Now, in different forms or the other. The first time this actually came out was when Randeep Sarai of British Columbia, MP in British Columbia, had tabled a motion called M44. Now, in that motion M44, there was, let me just get rid of this. In motion M44, there were certain criterias. So under this motion M44, government was asked to consider prioritizing certain occupations and certain people within the categories, including temporary residents in Canada, for permanent residents. So obviously, at that point of time, Sean Fraser was the immigration minister. Nothing came out of it in terms of that motion M44. I mean, a lot of people thought that was going to be the next TR to PR, but no, of course not. Nothing really came out of it. But in September, so this motion was tabled somewhere in the month of, I think, May, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around there in 2022. And somewhere in the month of September, October, somewhere in that 2022, they tabled an answer, a reply to motion M44 with a report which said strategy. What did it say? Hold on. Let me pull that up. Hold on. Just give me a moment. I have it all here. Just need to pull that up. Where is it? Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Window. No. Tab. Window. Yes. No. I can't find it. Hold on. Yeah, I found it. This is what it was. Let me get to this. Motion M44, right? So in this, so this was the document that was finally released. It was called Strategy to Expand Transitions to Permanent Residency. That is what it was referred to. Okay. And then as I scroll down on this page, it had the text of that motion M44, and which is here. And amongst all these things, now I don't want to bore you guys because I want to come to the crux of what I want to talk to you about today. And amongst all of this, there was obviously it talked about specifically considering occupations and essential sectors in health services. Health services is here, agriculture is here, manufacturing, service industry, trades, transportation. So they talked about all of this. And this is where you are seeing all the categories coming out as well. But it also talked about assess ways to increase geographic distribution of immigration and encourage immigrant retention to smaller communities, as well as increase francophone immigration outside Quebec. Now, this is the source, or this is where it originated from. This is where it said that, okay, this is what you guys need to do. Okay. And let's bring this up. And this was as I said, this whole strategy document that was prepared was in response for this motion M44. Now, this is a very long document. I think there were 35, 40 pages, and you can find it. It's not a very difficult document to find. In this, in very small words, they said that they would be looking at ways and means of improving or increasing immigration in outside the main urban centers and in the rural areas. So that is what was indicated, right? And then came Bill C-19. I'm not sure again how many of you remember. Bill C-19 was tabled again in 2022, and it eventually was passed in the parliament. Then it got its royal assent somewhere in June of 2022, and after that, that became the basis of category-based draws. So in let me see if I can find it. Of course, I should have that one as well, because. Yeah, let me find this. Hold on. I have it all here. I'm going to just, no. So here, this was the document which, no, this was the bill C-19 which was passed, right? Am I showing you the screen correctly? Yes. Yeah. So this was the bill C-19. It received the royal assent on June 23, 2022. And again, I'm not going to bore you with the text of it. In this text, if I actually just go to the text of the bill very quickly, so you know what is happening where. This was under section 377. You know, this is what I do day in day out. Just keep reading all these documents and text to understand what is happening. Now if I just go to, and this was the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. In this, under section 377, it basically allowed the immigration minister to be given the authority to create groups. It creates groups, okay? And these groups were required, or rather these immigration minister had now the authority to create groups based on occupation, based on economic priorities, based on whatever the immigration minister thought was required to promote healthy immigration into Canada. Specifically under this law, geography is not mentioned. Geography is not mentioned, region is not mentioned, categories are not mentioned, but it basically said that the immigration minister had to consult with the stakeholders, who could be provincial government, lobbies, the trade organizations, and any other stakeholders, including the law practitioners as well, in order to agree upon the categories. Now, what I want to show you now is that, and I tweeted this yesterday, and a lot of people were asking me for the source. So the source I've just shown you. It basically roots out from that particular motion M44 text, right? That's where the first time it was asked for something like this. Then the strategies document came out. Then the bill C-19 came out. So this is how it has been transitioning for the last 3 years. And over the last 2020, or the last year, 2023, what IRCC has been doing is IRCC has been testing within Express Entry. Now we all know Express Entry is very glitchy, right? Every time they try to make some small change, the system goes bonkers, right? We saw that with the NOC system, right? When they changed the NOC, we saw that when they tried to do category draws, the system went total kaput, and there was a big long gap of draws, and we did not know what the hell was going on, and there was a big pause, right? Last year they tried to, not they tried, but they did introduce that if you were inside Canada, then you had to correctly indicate your postal code. That was the latest change that has been introduced into the Express Entry, that you have to now include your postal code, not only for your residence, but also for your employer. Where is your employer based? That employer address. Remember, if you're entering the information in your Express Entry profile about your work experience, you have to also very clearly indicate the postal code, your residential postal code and your employer's postal code. Now, let me see if I can, of course I have it, but I need to find it. Where did I put it here? Right. So this is the actual source of what I'm talking about. This has been obtained through the ATIP notes by my very good friend, Stephen Murins, who's an immigration lawyer based in BC. You can go to his Twitter account and you will find the same thing on his Twitter account as well. This has been obtained through ATIP notes. And here it says, let me see if I can, where is it gone? Yeah, it says, again, this is a small excerpt, small text from that ATIP notes, which says, which is a communication between, I guess, two officers in IRCC, which says business requirements for regional selection in category-based selection. Please let me know the outcome, blah, blah, blah. Text changes into the CR schedule for the regional-based selection. This is where it's coming from. So you guys should be aware that it's going to come, it's going to happen. And then this is the next excerpt from the same text of the ATIP notes, which says business requirements for the regional selection in category-based selection. If you can see here, it says it's looking for information on job offer, postal code of job offer, work experience, postal code of work experience, Canadian study, where have you completed your study? So postal code of your Canadian study, the DLI of Canadian study, current residence in Canada, and postal code of residence in Canada, and intended residence in Canada. Where do you wish to reside? All of these are going to play a huge role once and whenever the geography based or regional based category comes into play. Now, whole of 2023, IRCC has been working on this. This has been tested. A portion of it, as we now know, has already been implemented through the postal code. This has been at the root of where this whole categories are coming from. I showed you in motion M44, it was very clearly mentioned that IRCC would, or rather that there is a big demand for moving, or rather for diversifying the immigration into the smaller communities, into the rural areas of Canada. And it has always been the demand of several provinces, several locations as well, that the immigration should move to those locations. I mean, it's quite normal, right? You've seen in Ontario, if you're submitting an application under any of the PNP streams, other than human capital, you get more points for the location of your college. If you're looking at the international student stream, you get more points if your job offer is in an area like in North Ontario, right? Versus if you're in Toronto. Same thing in Vancouver, same thing in British Columbia. If you're looking at British Columbia PNP, you get additional points for the geography or for the region if it is outside the main Greater Vancouver area. Same thing with the Alberta PNP, right? You have the Alberta PNP, then you have the rural stream. So with each province, as you will notice that there is a push, or even I think in Manitoba, if you're outside the Winnipeg, you get extra points. If you're inside Winnipeg, you get less points. And there has always been this push to move people away from the main urban centers into the less populated areas. And I guess now this push is going to be even more. Why? Because this way they can control the housing crisis from the main urban centers, and by trying to spread people out. So a collective effort from the government by curtailing the temporary residents, by encouraging rural immigration by different programs. There will be another program which will come at some point of time, which will be the municipal nominee program. RNIP has already been made permanent, and with these kind of draw changes that are now anticipated, because the back end work is happening. I've just showed you the document as well. You already know that the changes are already happening in the postal code, or rather they have already happened as far as the postal code is concerned. And it is only a matter of time by the time when we see that what exactly and how IRCC plays it out. Now, there are no details. There is nothing, no information is available as to how this will be implemented. Of course, we will continue to get and try to gain more ATIP notes from IRCC so that we can understand how will this category be implemented. At this point of time, for at least the remainder of the year, I do not anticipate any changes. Mark Miller has already said very clearly through one of the advisories that the categories will remain the same for the remainder of the year. So at least for 2024, you don't have to confuse yourself. You don't have to worry about, will there be a new category this year? Will CEC draw happen? Will domestic draw happen? Will this category not happen? Will STEM not happen? All the category draws will continue to happen. It is just that this new category that we are now aware of, when will that be implemented? That is just a matter of time. But I've been doing this live streams since 2022 in the sense of what to anticipate. This was a very, very important information that I had to share with you. If you are aware of this kind of a change, then sometimes you are able to plan and pivot and course correct if you have to. So therefore, it's always important to be in the know, to have the knowledge, to understand how that can impact you for your future plan or journey way ahead. So that is the reason why we do this. And that is the reason you should subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already done this, subscribe to any of our channels, all our channels, because that's what we do anywhere, everywhere, right? That's it. That's my live stream. That's my weekly roundup for you guys today. And we will now get on with the questions. I know you've been waiting for the questions, so let's get on with that one. Okay, before I get on to the questions, if you're going to ask me a question that my score is such and such, do I have a chance? I don't know. I cannot say. I wish I knew. If I knew that, then I would probably be sitting at a nice table in Vegas, making and raking in lots of money, right? I don't know. I do not know the chances for any score. And the reason for that is because IRCC has been unpredictable. Through the ATIP notes that we got and we spoke about a couple of weeks back, it seemed like IRCC wanted to keep their draws consistent. But last week, proves it otherwise. It shows that IRCC is as predictable as it always has been, over at least the last couple of years. So with this uncertain draw sizes, there is no way to say which score can get invited when. Now, I still do believe, and it's a belief, it's not something which I know of, it's a belief that 500s, all 500 should get cleared out. As far as the last express entry draw was concerned and the pool breakdown is concerned, the number of people in the pool suggests that they were no more than 11,000 at the last pool breakdown. So I'm sure with this 3-week gap, that number probably is going to go up, but it all depends how many invitations IRCC can issue. It's obviously their discretion how many invitations they wish to issue. The more they issue, the better it is. The scores go lower, but in this case, I would assume that they would be looking to invite within the quotas, within the targets that they have, and with that aspect, they would probably continue with the similar draws that they've been conducting. But somewhere down the line, it's my belief, again, no speculation here that what can happen, cannot happen, just a belief that they will at least clear out all 500s. I think there's a lot of pressure that they would be facing as well, because genuinely 500s, who has 500s, right? Okay, I know so many of you are going to jump onto this and say, okay, LMIAs, frauds, etc., etc., etc. But why do you have to think everybody is a fraud? Obviously, there are a lot of people who are genuinely also obtaining LMIAs. There are also a lot of people who are genuinely in Canada with an LMIA exempt work permit, whether it's 50 points or 200 points, and who have completed their work experience and are getting those points. So that is that small section of community there. In addition to that, largely, it's people who are bilingual, number one. It's people who have completed their master's degree in Canada. And why would you think people aren't there, right? There are tons and tons of people who are completing master's degree in Canada. Yeah, you get 30 points for additional points for masters. And after that, if you also complete 1 year of work experience in Canada, and if you have at least 1 year of work experience outside Canada, you get a good score with your language skills, and you can see your scores can get pretty good. So so basically those are largely CEC draws. So people who have been advocating, people who have been asking for CEC draws, if CEC draws was to happen today, and if the number of draw size also doesn't go very high, you will see that the scores will probably remain in 500 for some time before it actually goes below 500, till they can clear out all the people who are CECs, because large number of people above 500s are actually CECs. And I'm sure if all of you are going to comment right now here and tell me, you will agree with me that yes, a lot of you are sitting with 500 plus and you are CECs. Okay, so that's one. And yes, if you're going to ask me a question as to what are the chances for your score, I probably don't know. So I'm going to skip those questions. Okay, the first question is the same thing. 484 STEM, points will be 489. Should I expect an invite? Yes, of course, expect an invite. Why won't you? The last draw was at 491 and for STEM. And yeah, whenever the next draw happens, at least I would assume that the draw can go lower. But again, that's what people thought at 481, right? When the STEM draw happened at 481, everybody at 479, 478 were all expecting a STEM draw. And then IRCC came with a whammy, right? And then the next draw was at 491. And that is primarily because of the popularity of the program. And more people join the pool, the number of draws are same or lower, and the scores go higher. So while I would like to believe that 489 can definitely happen, but whether it happens before July 1st or not, I don't know. So when you ask me these questions, I wish I knew and I could really tell you that yes, it can happen. No, it can't happen. I really don't know. I have done 2 years postgraduate diploma. I've got 2 years work permit through flag polling, which is expiring in October. Can I apply for extension? What are the chances I will get an extension? Well, if you got your 2 years work permit that you got through flag polling, because your passport was expiring, then you can get an extension. Because it was a short duration, it would probably be written on your passport. Other than that, because you got a 2 year work permit, you could also apply for an extension with the request that because you completed a 2 year postgraduate diploma, you were supposed to get a 3 year work permit, but you got only 2 years. So request to be given an extra 1 year. We've had a fair success in these kind of applications, but I'm not going to say that it happened every single time. It's a chance that you will have to take, and you might just get lucky. In non-express entry, my spouse and I don't have a birth certificate. Is it a mandatory document, or could you suggest me with an alternate other than NABC? NABC. What is NABC? Are you talking about the NFC, not found certificate? I do not know what is NABC, but uh, yes, birth certificate is a mandatory document. If you do not have a birth certificate, then you should get an NFC, which is not found certificate. So go back to your municipality where you were born and request the municipal authorities to issue you a not found certificate. And then you can provide additional documents like your 10th standard, 12th standard, letter from the gazetted officer, Aadhaar, PAN if you are from India, or if you are from Pakistan, then probably your family registration certificate. Uh, yeah, your birth certificate. Other than that, no, there are no other ways to establish that. But yes, for national identity cards, your PAN or your tax documents, your school documents, those will be the additional documents you can provide along with the letter of explanation. And of course, proof that your birth was not registered and you can't, or rather, your birth certificate cannot be found by the officer. When can I apply my Bridge Open Work Permit after submitting PR through Ontario? And is it possible to apply for spouse as well as in the same application? Work permit is expiring on June 25th. Well, first of all, a lot of people are misled into believing that they can apply for a Bridge Open Work Permit at the time they have got invited from the province. That's not so. You've gotten invited for the nomination. You will get the nomination. After you get the nomination, if you're applying through express entry, then you will get your 600 points. Then you will get an ITA. Then you will submit your PR application. Then you'll get an AOR. You require your AOR in order to apply for your Bridge Open Work Permit. So if you have your AOR and you are saying after submitting PR through OINP, so I do not know, are you referring to the nomination or are you referring to the PR application? So for the if you're only applying for nomination, then at this stage you cannot apply for Bridge Open Work Permit, or rather you do not have any eligibility to apply for Bridge Open Work Permit. But if you have received the nomination, you have got the 600 points, then you can apply for your PR. And if you've applied for your PR, you have the AOR. Once you have the AOR, you can apply for your Bridge Open Work Permit anytime before the expiry of your your expiry of your work permit. And you will be on an implied status and you can continue working. Nothing there. Faizan says, applying my postgraduate work permit and spouse open work permit extension together. Spouse is in Canada. Do I need to have job and 3 pay stubs for spouse open work permit extension? Yes. If you're applying for a postgraduate work permit and a spouse open work permit together, you can do that. There is no problem in doing that. And this is where a lot of people make a mistake. They think that they're applying for postgraduate work permit and they can apply for their spouse open work permit together. Yes, you can. There's no problem with that. But in the application for your spouse's open work permit extension or even a spouse open work permit new, you have to add your employment letter, which should include your job description and at least 3 pay stubs. Without that, your spouse's extension for work permit or a new work permit will be refused in most cases. I mean, very rarely do they approve it. And if they do approve it, then that's probably by oversight, not because that is acceptable. So yes, to answer your question, you would have to provide the employment letter and 3 pay stubs in your spouse's application. I have tier 4 jobs. I am FSR. Can I apply for PR? FSR. What does FSR mean? Food services? No. I don't know what FSR means, but if it is a tier 4 job, then you cannot apply in express entry and most PNP applications, but you can apply under RNIP, AIP, and then there are some PNP programs, of course, like there is a Saskatchewan's hard to find skilled pilot. There is some programs in Atlantic, in Nova Scotia as well, but it all depends which province you are. And for any kind of program that you might be thinking of, you are definitely going to need the support of an employer. So that's how you can apply for PR. So support of the employer is what we will be looking for. With a CRS score of 484 and NOC, what are the chances? Again, it's the same answer. I don't know the chances. OINP should conduct the draw. I don't know whether they will, but should conduct the human capital priorities draw in tech with 490 and below. And the low point is only decided by the number of invitations that they wish to issue. So the more the number of invitations, the lower the score. And then, yes, it's obviously a possibility for people to get invited with 480s. Work permit ends in late June. I lost my job, now receiving EI, got ITA, submitted documents, haven't received the AOR. If I don't apply for bridge open work permit, will I still get a EI after my work permit expires with implied status? After my work permit expires with implied status. Well, as long as you can legally allowed to work in Canada, you should be able to get your EI. But this is something which is outside my scope of service, something which is outside my scope of expertise. The best person to answer would be the blokes at Service Canada itself. So maybe if you just pick up the phone, call Service Canada, they might be able to help you. You can take a trip down to the Service Canada office as well. But as long as you are authorized to work and you're not working, because of being laid off or because having lost your job, then you should be able to claim EI because, hey, you guys have paid the employment insurance as well, right? I wanted to ask you, what is the likelihood of getting an IT with a CRS of 478 under the French category draw this year? French category draw 478, I mean, this is as good as money in the bank. At least that's what I would say. So yeah, pretty good option. 478. Listen, francophones, yeah, you guys are pretty good. Yeah, I don't see any reason why you would even ask this question. All you need to do is just take a look at the past scores, whatever has happened in the past scores, and you would know that this is a very good score to have. I got an ITA for PR. My closed work permit under global talent stream restricts my work location. ESDC allows flexibility if reported. Will this cause issue with IRCC during my application process? How do I justify this? What's there to justify? I'm not sure I understand the question. You have got an ITR, you have a closed work permit, ESDC allows flexibility. Where is the issue? There is no issue here. No, I mean, IRCC, there is no issues here, to be very honest. You have a work permit, you have a closed work permit, LMIA exempt, you're good to go. There's no issues here at all. Yes, you can absolutely continue with your PR application, no problem here. Bhavan says, I studied year 20 to 22 full-time online, worked full-time during the same time in India. Can I claim points for work and study in CEC? How should I mention it in personal history? So, because you worked in India, your work experience cannot be CEC. Your work experience will be foreign work experience. But yes, you can claim points for foreign work experience here because it was outside Canada. And you can also claim points for your education in Canada because that's what they're allowing. How do you mention it in personal history? For your Canadian education, you will enter all the questions correctly, and you will just say the location of your education while you were studying. You were outside Canada when it is asking you for those questions. That's all. My middle name on foreign degree and Indian work experience letter is slightly different than the passport. Just affidavit or also select yes, or have you used any other name? Well, if it is just a matter of an alphabet here and there, which is happening with a lot of people, right? Sometimes an A, sometimes an H, sometimes whatever the alphabet might be, then you can just explain and that's all right. But if there is anything more than that, and if there are too many variations, an addition of a middle name, an addition of a father's name on some document or whatever that might be, then you should always play it safe. It's an immigration application. It's always good to play it safe. Just say yes to the question, have you used other name? Add your other name into that, and yeah, just play it safe, and then provide a one and same person affidavit, and you'll be fine, and you won't have any issues there. Can I mention on my PR application that I actively work on healthcare sector with information technology? Can I get priority? Can I get priority somehow? Well, no, IRCC doesn't believe in giving priorities in something like this. You could be working anywhere, it doesn't matter. What matters is your NOC code, and NOC code does not differentiate that within the information technology, are you also working in healthcare or not? It doesn't matter. The fact that you are working in information technology, that by itself is a priority occupation. So what other priority would you want to get from there on? I mean, I can understand what you're trying to do here. You're looking at the healthcare and hoping to gain advantage of the lower healthcare draws, but no. Under the healthcare sector, only the NOC codes that have been identified for healthcare practitioners, those are considered under healthcare. But if you are information technology, then you will be information technology and you would go under STEM categories. if they are trying to reduce temporary residence, extending work permits is in Manitoba is a bad idea. Even in that case, PR quota is fixed. Is mass amnesty for work permit holders, PR quota increase on the cards? Great question. I wish I could answer that, but I am not privy to any kind of discussions that these guys are holding. We only get to know this kind of information if we get access to the their information ATIP notes or GCMS notes kind of a thing. Uh, the point is quite fair, but that ship sailed long back when Sean Fraser made all those changes. He extended work permits year after year after year. He allowed the spouse open work permits to come into Canada for all kinds of NOC codes. He what else was there? Uh, Remember the visit visas? They, because the backlog was so huge, they gave blanket approvals to hundreds and thousands of visit visa holders by removing the condition that you have to show that you would leave Canada. When all that was done, it created a serious influx of people, of temporary residents in Canada. If you are following me on Twitter, you would see I have been saying this for, I don't know, a couple of years, that the number of temporary residents in Canada is serious concern. Hey, Ukrainians, right? I mean, they issued near, I mean, there were nearly 1 million applications from Ukraine. I do not have the exact number how many actually arrived in Canada, but I think there were a few 100,000 of those. Then they continued to extend work permits for people from Iran. Then people from Hong Kong, they have certain provisions because of problems that are happening there. Now, these are all humanitarian conditions, and they're absolutely fine. I mean, again, I'm not the one to start judging what's happening, what's not happening, but it is collectively adding to the temporary resident number. The temporary residence number at this point of time is roughly 2.6, 2.7 million, and I think that number is not correct. Again, Stats Canada is not known for maintaining good numbers, and most of the 2.6 million that you have been seeing lately in the news is primarily does not include the temporary residents that are coming on Canada on visit visas, because they are visit visas. They are considered as a floater population. Some of them, I'm assuming most of them would be coming to Canada with the intent of visiting Canada for a few months and leaving. But you and I know a lot of them are coming into Canada with the purpose of continuing to stay in Canada by getting a work permit or trying to figure out a way to get a permanent residence. So that is also a very big population which goes unaccounted. So in my opinion, I think the number is more than 3 million in fair understanding of things. But to come back with to what you are saying, the work permit holders in Manitoba, extending that is a bad idea. Well, what's 6,700 when you have 3 million to worry about, right? I mean, and the idea is that those people in Manitoba are already in the process of their PR applications. They're just waiting, and they would have actually become permanent residents. It's just that Manitoba has such long processing time. Manitoba can easily go more than 8 to 10 months in processing the nominations. Same way with Saskatchewan. So if those individuals within the process are getting reprieved, then fair enough. Because Bridge Open Work Permit also does the same thing, right? If you are able to apply for a permanent residence, then you can apply for Bridge Open Work Permit. Isn't that also increasing the temporary residence? So it's the same logic. It is just that you are going one level down. Bridge Open Work Permit is at the federal level. You are getting a work permit because you've applied for PR. One level down is the provincial nomination. If you've applied for provincial nomination, and if it is under the process, then it's not your fault that the processing is taking so long. And if those people are also getting some sort of a relief, I think it's fair. I think IRCC and Canada collectively has much bigger fish to fry, given all this situation currently. And I think, yeah, they need to put their heads together and figure out a better way of dealing with the situation, because it is alarming. If you have 3 million temporary residents in Canada and you are not able to offer solutions to people who bought into the dream, who bought into the narrative that this is going to lead to permanent residence, and the government cannot come and say, hey, you guys came as a student, you should have known, or why did you come to Canada wanting to become PR? You should have studied and you should have gone back. If that was the case, then from get-go, you should have always promoted the fact that Canada, you are coming only to study, you should go back. Now, I'm not saying that's not what they say, because obviously all study permits that are refused always say that, we do not believe that you will go back to your home country. That's what we are refusing. But if you see document after document, express entry. Okay, look at express entry. What is express entry doing, right? Express entry is giving you points for Canadian education. It's giving you points for work experience. What is a postgraduate work permit program? It is awarding you with a work permit and an opportunity to get those extra points after completing your education. Time after time, minister after minister has always said that the international students and foreign workers who are completing their studies in Canada are best suited to become permanent residents because they transition quite well into the Canadian society. So when you have this kind of narrative always flowing right from the top down, look at, you know what, I need to show you this as well, because this was one document I missed out earlier on, and I think this also needs to be discussed now that we're talking about things. Hold on. A good question, Hitesh. I'm glad you brought this up, because some things just get left out. Now, this, what I'm sharing with you guys, is the mandate letter that was issued by no other than our Prime Minister, favorite Prime Minister, right? This was issued in the year 2021 when Minister Fraser was the Immigration Minister. And in this, again, there is so much being said about international students, etc., etc. Say, here you go. Expand pathways to permanent resident for international students and temporary foreign workers through the express entry system. Now, when you have narrative like this coming right from the top, there is nobody up there, right? Prime Minister, the buck stops there. And when you see this kind of narrative, and then you say, hey, we didn't say international students that we are going to make you permanent resident. You should go back. You wrote in your SOP, you will go back. You go back. I mean, be more logical when you say all those things, because the Prime Minister is saying otherwise. Prime Minister is saying, hey, I'm expanding pathways to make international, to provide permanent residence to the international students and foreign workers. It's here. It's very, very clear. And when you say things like this, then don't expect people, when they buy into your narrative and then, and start believing what you are saying. And when it doesn't happen, they feel cheated, they feel let down, they feel disappointed, because they invested money, they spent very precious years of their life buying into that dream, buying into that narrative, which now you are just raising your hands and saying, okay, we don't want temporary residents, go out. Instead, accept that there is a failure in the governance, accept that this was badly played out, that this was a total screw up, and figure out a better way of dealing with this, instead of just, making international students and foreign workers public enemy number one. Right now, look at the hate comments that come into any post, right? Go on Twitter and look at number of people who come back and spew hatred all over the place. I mean, I understand some individuals within certain communities have not done themselves any favors. I agree, but that's not everybody. And I guess, the international students continue to take the blame for everything that's happening right now in Canada, which again also is not fair. But until somebody right at the top has the courage to take the responsibility and sort this out. I mean, Mark Miller, to be very honest, as much he's not getting the love that he should be getting, because he's taking some tough decisions, he's making some tough calls, right? Sean Fraser, on the other hand, was only offering band-aid solution. Employment lobbies are saying, we need more laborers. Okay, you know what? Let's extend the work permits. Some people were saying we need more open work permits. Okay, let's get spouses open work permits. Some international students said we should be, or some business lobbies said we need cheap labor. They said, okay, let's give international students the opportunity to work full time. We can have cheap labor here. When you do these kind of things, right, not only are you diluting the value of what you set out to be in the first place, and not, you made a mockery out of the whole thing. The whole world is laughing at the whole Canadian immigration system and what they have done about the whole thing. And now you're basically, pushing the blame, shoving the blame game on international students, which is not fair. But then again, it's just a matter of opinion. Some of you are going to comment and say, hey, you're an agent, your business runs on this, and therefore you are saying all this. Well, my business runs, yes, but not on international students alone. A lot of other things happening here, but that's not the point. The point is, be realistic, be logical and see what's happening in front of you. Hitesh, thank you for that question. Radadia says, can I apply for Bridge Open work permit if I have nomination from Ontario and I apply for federal PR before my work permit expires, since my employer is not ready to pay any fees? Yes. If you have the nomination, if you have the AOR from your PR application, then you can apply for the Bridge Open work permit. I have 5 years foreign experience. I don't have proper reference letter for 2 years experience. Can I show this in employment history? Still, can I show other 3 years, which will give me max score of foreign experience? Very confusing. So you have 5 years of foreign work experience, right? IRCC needs 3 years because that gives you a maximum points for your foreign work experience. So if out of the 5 years, if you have documentation for 3 years, that's absolutely fine. The other 2 years for which you don't have the documentation, simply move it to the personal history. You will not need any documentation for it. But of course, please do disclose all the information correctly and truthfully. Sitting at 523 in STEM, postgraduate work permit expiring in June, no LMIA from employer. Best I could do is 529 after self-pay retake. Is there any benefit in staying as a visitor? Should I go back home and come when I get PR? Great question. I actually said this a bit earlier in one of my Instagram reels, and again, I got a lot of hate for it. And I'm not sure why people don't understand certain things for what they are being said. Rather, they get very sensitive about it. You want to stay in Canada? Yes, I'm sure a lot of you want to. But what's the point of staying in Canada as a visitor if you're not visiting Canada? Visit is meant to be that you come to Canada, you visit family, friends, you sightsee, you go back, right? You have, in your case, Shyam Prakash, to answer to your question is, should you go back? In my opinion, yes, you should go back. You wait for the draw and the PR application outside Canada and then come back when you become PR. So that's the answer to your question. As far as the benefit is concerned, I'm going to talk about that for a bit. There is no benefit in staying in Canada as a visitor. If your work permit is expiring, you may apply for fake extension. I know tons and tons and tons of people are doing it. You will get 2 months, 3 months extension because of the implied status. After that, you will lose status. You will be out of status. At that point of time, you can apply for restoration. You can apply for change of status to a visitor record. Yes. But why do that? Instead, why can't you just go back? You will be less stressed about the whole thing in terms of being here all the time and seeing all this happening. So until and unless you are sure that you can find an employer or you are sure you can get an LMIA, then yes, it makes sense for you to hang on and wanting to be here. But if that's not the case, then simply just go back, because if you go back, you probably can go back to your home country, gain 6 months or more work experience in a priority occupation, then probably come back and enter into the pool and then get eligible under the healthcare, STEM, trade, agriculture, transport categories. That's one way to look at it. Number two, if you're just waiting for the process, being in Canada is not going to rush your process. Yes, you might gain an advantage or something with the fact that you will get your COPR by email, versus outside Canada, you will get a passport request, you will set your passport for stamping, and then you will fly back to Canada as a permanent resident. But other than that, you get no benefit of being here on a visitor record. On the contrary, you're spending, if you're an Indian, you're spending 65 times more, right? $1 to 65 rupees. Canada is expensive. If you're not working, you're going to be spending for your accommodation, you're going to be spending for your food, you're going to be spending for your transport, and of course, you're going to be here, you're going to spend on 10 other things as well. You will realize your savings will run out pretty quickly, and you will realize after a few months, you haven't done yourself any favor. So by all means, being in Canada as a visitor while you're waiting for your PR application, while you're waiting for a draw, while you're waiting for your ITA, while you're waiting for your after AOR, while it gives you zero advantage, absolutely no advantage. The only time you would want to stay back or hang on here is if you have a prospective employer who may give you an LMIA. You have a prospective employer who might offer you a job, and from there on, you would be able to use that document for your PR application. Obviously, remember, while you are a visitor in Canada, you cannot work. It's illegal to work as a visitor. So bear that in mind. and then take that call, make that decision, because otherwise being in Canada as a visitor has zero value for you. You probably will be better off back in your home country. Sahiti says, I got ITA in April during India vacation, returned to Canada, submitted PCC on May 2nd, but PCC takes 8 weeks, won't get before ITA. When should I submit my documents? Well, you can submit your application with the explanation that I have applied for my PCC. I haven't got it yet. Once I will receive it, I will upload it through the web form. Make sure you provide proof of having applied for the PCC and screenshots to show what the current status of your application is. Nothing there. Do I need to study entirely in RNIP communities to fulfill the criteria, or can I split a 4-year course with 1 year in campus outside RNIP communities elsewhere and the rest 2 years in RNIP communities? Well, the requirement is of having spent at least 16 months in the RNIP community. So if you spend at least 2 years in the RNIP community, then you should technically and ideally have the advantage of using the RNIP program for yourself. My degree is in bachelor's in mechanical engineering, but my job roles and responsibilities aligned with civil. Can I use the civil NOC with my employment letter? Yes, you can. The NOC code is always determined by matching and aligning your job description. Never with the job title, never with the education. Of course, your education must somehow establish that, yes, you are aligned to do this job. For example, you show yourself as a doctor, but your degrees and qualifications is all in engineering. Doesn't match. How did you become a doctor? You are an engineer, but your degrees and qualification is all in accounting. Again, doesn't match. How did you become an engineer? But in other generic activities or in overlapping industries and qualifications, you can certainly do it. It's not a problem. So in your case, please choose the NOC code which is matching with your job responsibilities, your job duties, and not with the job title or your education. I got my COPR last week, have been following your channel for 2 years. Thank you so much for helping the community. Hey, Dikshit, thank you so much. Congratulations. That's great news. I really love hearing from people when they have finally managed to get to that milestone which they've been chasing for such a long time. Congratulations. Well done. Mayuri, there is nothing here, sorry. Do I need to give upfront medical as an international student for express entry, or can I attach the e-medical report from student visa, or do I need to give upfront medicals? What documents do you upload? Okay, so there is a public policy which states that if you are making your application for permanent residence or for temporary residence from inside Canada and you have completed your medicals within the last 5 years, then you may use the same medicals that you completed earlier for your temporary residence application or permanent residence application. But if you are submitting your application from outside Canada, okay, then it doesn't matter where you did your medicals, you will have to redo your medicals on request from IRCC. So if you're completing your application, just submit a letter of explanation saying you are waiting for the request from IRCC. But if you're inside Canada, you can use the same medicals regardless of where you did your medicals. So that is not a problem. Richie Singh. File in the pool with 478, work permit expiring Feb. How can I transition and head trade or healthcare? Any trade that takes less than a year. Well, I don't know which trade will take less than a year. That is for you to find out. That is for you to identify. You already are less than a year to go with your work permit. Identify a NOC code, which probably will help you get to the objective that you seek. There are a few NOC codes that you could look at if you join them. Education counselor, probably. I do not know what your background is, what your work experience is, what your qualification is, but education counselor is one which I think, I don't remember in which category that comes in. It's not on top of my head, but that is one. Then there are some other NOC codes as well, which are generic but are related. So you need work experience there. In trade, pretty much most of them would require you to have some sort of a certification. So just again, go through the list, see which ones, and go through the NOC codes as well, see what the employment requirements are, see what needs are, and whichever makes sense, then yeah, gain 6 months of experience and you're good to go. Oh. Currently at 511, applied to Ontario Master Stream. Shall I go with another IELTS? Can I make second file with another IELTS, which makes 517? Can take after invite? I don't know what you're asking me. Okay, so you've applied for your master's stream. Good. You also have an express entry profile at 511. Good. If you retake your IELTS, you can get 517. Yes, by all means do it, because certainly 517 will get invited before 511. So if I was you, I would certainly improve my scores, and there is no problem in having two PR applications. Whenever IRCC is going to finalize any of these applications, they will ask you to withdraw the other one. So you can do that. I have a 2-year work permit for 2-year postgraduate diploma expiring in 4 months. I'm a NOC B job. If I apply for postgraduate work permit, do my implied status months counts as work experience? What are the chances for extension? Okay, again, a very common question. The day you apply for your postgraduate work permit, you may start working full time. Your work experience counts from that day onwards. That is not a problem. As far as extension of work permit is concerned, no, there is no provision to extend your work permits. Postgraduate work permits are given only once, and if it's expiring, it's expiring. Some people are opting for fake extensions, but that is only a very temporary measure. Probably will give you, in some cases, some people have got implied status only for a week, so that's all that got them, because they process that so fast. But that's all you will get. But other than that, there is no other advantage, and unfortunately, there is no provision to apply for extension. Nothing here, nothing here. Thank you, and nothing here. Skills transferability, work experience, foreign work experience will still getting 50 points even now. I have less than 3 years of foreign work experience. I also have 3 years of Canadian experience. Can you explain, please? Explain what exactly? I don't know what you want to explain here. The system has a glitch where it gives you the points before you have completed your work experience. So if you have completed less than 3 years of work experience, but you are still getting points for 3 years of experience, then in my opinion, you change the dates of your work experience, foreign work experience, to 1 month less, so that you don't get those additional points. And then once you are completing your PR application, then you can add an explanation that this is the reason why the difference is there in the dates, because the system was automatically giving you additional points, which you shouldn't get. And that's why you have changed those dates. That's what you can do. Spouse open work permit was submitted in Feb from India, but did not receive medical request letter yet. Will the application be processed without medicals too? In some cases, yes, it could be processed, but in most cases, especially from India, you would need the medicals. I would suggest that you can do an upfront medicals and upload it through the web form to IRCC. I am working as, oh boy, there's a lots and lots of questions. Guys, please do not do any more super chats. I would appreciate it. Thank you. I'm working as a travel supervisor tier 2. My employer allows me working holidays abroad for a month or more. Will the remote work experience while traveling be counted towards express entry? If you are on business, if you're traveling on business, then that counts as part of your work experience, if it's not for too long. But if it is you taking a holiday and then working during your holiday remotely, then that doesn't count. Do you think express entry will be wiped once conservatives are in power? My work permit expires in 2025. Will things be different next year? Again, good question. I am skeptical to comment anything on this. I do not know how it will play out. But conservatives are known, I mean, conservatives, right? That's why they're called conservative. They are known to not be a fan of immigration, as in they're not fans of big scale immigration. Like liberals really pushed it to 500,000 a year. Conservatives not so much. Yes, with elections looming next year, the chances are that I don't expect immediate changes to the immigration once conservatives come, but over the period of time that they will be governing Canada, I do anticipate that there might be some more changes that might be more restrictive. Your work permit is expiring October 2025. I think you're all right. I think you'll be fine by 2025 October. You should be okay, because it's not like the new government comes and the next day they bring out such restrictive changes from day one immediately. At the end of the day, there are people who are working temporarily in Canada, and they're working for Canadian employers, and therefore the interests of the people will still be paramount. And therefore, while over the long run they might introduce more restrictive policies, I don't anticipate anything in the short term. Is there any chance of getting more than one draw for trade category in 2024 in express entry? Yes. I anticipate 2 to 3 draws for trade for this year. Actually, for all categories, I anticipate at least 3, if not 4 draws. So yeah, same thing goes with trade as well. 1 year Canadian work contract and I left Canada in the middle of it for a month. Does this still count as 1 year work experience for CEC? Well, it all depends. If you completed 1 year of work experience in Canada as a CEC, up to 2 weeks, IRCC doesn't have a problem. In most cases, even 1 month, they pretty much don't really have a problem with. Anything more than 1 month, then you should just work for an additional month to overcome that gap that might not be considered as a 1 year, that might not be considered as a complete 1 year. So just work for another month to comply with that. WES for BTech, which gave equivalency for your bachelor. Do I need to get WES done for diploma as well as to get points for 2 or more degrees and diplomas for express entry? Yes, absolutely. If you have WES done for bachelors and you want to get points for 2 or more degrees, then you must absolutely get your ECA for both your credentials. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Work permit expires in August. My LMIA was approved in December, expires after 18 months. Should I apply for closed work permit in June as the new validity is 6 months, or am I exempt from a 6 months validity? This is what I explained earlier. Your work permit is valid till 2024 August and your LMIA is valid for 18 months. You don't have a problem. You can apply for your work permit anytime during that 18 months. But in your case, I would apply as soon as possible so that you can get a work permit. Your work permit has got nothing to do with the 6 months validity. So don't worry about the 6 months validity. It's not like your work permit will be valid for 6 months. It's the LMIA which are now being issued from 1st May onwards. Those will be valid for 6 months. So in your case, you have absolutely nothing to worry about, whether it's your closed work permit or whether it's your LMIA. Both are good. My name is Nishant T, and the experience letter in Canada, it's Nishant Tirupati. Is it okay? Yeah, that's fine. That's not a problem. You can always add a letter of explanation to explain that your last name, just an alphabet, has been used as an acronym versus your complete name indicated in other documents. That's not a problem. Work permit expires, fake extension, result is negative. Obviously, I chose to go back to India and wait. Does it put one out of CEC? If not, can I accept ITA while in India? Please clarify. Okay, good. This is another good question too. So what happens is, a lot of people are confusing themselves that they have to be physically present in Canada to be considered as CEC. Not true. You can be anywhere in the world, and as long as you have at least 1 year of work experience within the last 3 years in Canada, that you completed your 1 year of work experience in Canada within the last 3 years, valid NOC code, paid as an employee, then you are CEC and you will remain CEC until the validity of 1 year of work experience within the next 3 years, within the last 3 years. Even after the 3 years period is over, you will still get points for Canadian work experience, but you will no longer be a CEC, you will become an FSW. There is no problem. You can submit your application from India. You will continue to be CEC in the near term, because as long as your 1 year of work experience is within the 3 years. The only difference between CEC and FSW is that no proof of funds for CEC, FSW needs proof of funds. Other than that, there is nothing there. Yeah. So please do not worry about it. You can absolutely return back to India and wait for your ITA there. No issues. You will get your points. Reference letter, should the employer state the job type as remote? Due to negligence of BLS, my PCC application is still processing. How to justify not having PCC while submitting the application? If the employer states that the job type is remote, yes, they can. There is no problem with that. Now, as far as PCC is concerned, I already explained earlier. You can simply add a letter of explanation saying that your PCC is in process, add a receipt of having applied, screenshot, and request for additional time, and you're good to go. Sorry, nothing there. Did 3 certifications of 8 to 12 each after BTech. Do I need to mention them while creating express entry? You can mention them in the personal history. These certifications probably are not going to add any value. The only value will be added with the credentials for which you have an ECA. Do you think express entry will be wiped out? Oh, I just spoke about this. Sorry. When the next OINP tech draw, and will it fall to 463? I don't know. I don't know when the next draw will be, and I don't know whether the scores will drop down to 463 or not. Hopefully, there should be one around the corner. As far as scores are concerned, it only depends how many invitations they will issue. The more invitations, the better it is. I'm in STEM waiting for 488. Can I do master's course from whatever? And can I get points for those while working here full time? I don't think master's course online platforms like this can get you those points. A proper degree should be issued. The degree and the transcripts have to be sent to the evaluating agencies like WES. They have to give you the equivalency, only then you will get the points. 510 work permit expiring in June. 3 years work permit will be completed in September. Score increased to 521. Should I apply for work permit extension to get 2 more experience or go back? I don't understand. I mean, yeah, you can technically apply for an extension if you want to take the advantage of the implied status. Yes, I mean, almost everybody that I know is doing it. And if you get the advantage of those 2 months and you get that extra work experience points, then by all means do. And then once that is refused, then please return back and wait in your home country for the draw to happen and for the remaining processing. I guess that would be a better way to go. Should the work reference letter only talk about FTE? I also interned during my studies with the same employer, but that doesn't count for CEC. Should it be included in the letter? FTE, are you referring to full-time experience? Part-time, full-time? FTE, is that what you mean? I'm assuming. So the letter can mention both internship as well as the full-time experience. That is not a problem. In your work history, you will show work experience starting only from the date you got your work permit, the day you applied for your postgraduate work permit, and the period of the time that you were interning, that will go in your personal history so that it maintains consistency. I applied for Bridge Open work permit. Postgraduate work permit expires. I have not received the implied status documents. Can I keep working? Yes. You don't have to receive the implied status document. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't come. It can happen a technical glitch. And if you have the AOR for your Bridge Open work permit and you have made that application, you can most definitely continue working. There is no problem. I make 90K salary, 2 years in July, score is 476. What to do? Work permit expires 2025. Well, if there is any option for you to improve your scores, then do that. If you have any option to find an employer who can give you an LMIA, do that. If you can improve your scores in international student stream, do that. Other than that, probably gain work experience in a priority occupation, if at all that is an option. But other than that, unfortunately, there is nothing much to do. You can also look for a PNP program other than OINP, go to a different province. But any other province also would basically mean you will have to find an employer who can give you or support your application for PNP. Can I claim 50 points for LMIA from Montreal? Oh, good question. I don't have the answer in a clear context. Why? Because technically you can claim 50 points for LMIA because, hey, LMIA gives you 50 points regardless of the fact that it's from Montreal. You will have big issue in explaining your intention to reside outside Quebec because it's going to contradict the fact that you're claiming points for job offer, which will say that this job offer is valid for 1 year after you become PR. So contradictory much here. But yeah, you can take a chance and try to explain that though my LMIA is from Montreal, my employer is going to move me if your employer agrees to a remote location or to work location, or that I can live in Ontario and commute to work for a later date. Yeah, you can make some explanation there, but to answer your question, can you claim points? Yes, you can. LMIA based closed work permit expiring after submitting PR. Would this be a problem if I claim 50 points for it? No, it is not a problem. One experience in Canada, but through agency. T4 says self-employment. Does it count as CEC experience? If your T4 says self-employment, it can't be T4. It has to be T4A. Or if your employment letter says that you were self-employed, then it's a problem. If you did not get a pay stub, you made an invoice and you got paid for it, then it's a problem. All of this in Canada as self-employed work experience is not considered as eligible. You need to be an employee, and you should have a pay stub which should show deductions, which should show that which would get you a T4 at the end of the year. That would count. Do we have to remain in Canada to get an invitation for HCP stream? No, you don't have to be in Canada to get an HCP stream. They are saying what it says on the website. It says that if you are in Canada, then you should have a valid status. If you are in Canada on illegal status or out of status, then that's a problem. But if you're in Canada, be on a valid status. If you are outside Canada, you are still eligible to get an HCP invitation. No problem there. Passport has given name. How to write in express entry? If your passport has only given name, then you write your name in the last name field in express entry. Leave the first name blank, and that's absolutely fine. Received IT and a STEM. In invitation, it shows CEC. How much and how old funds do I need to show? Have Indian payroll running during my education in Canada is a problem. A lot of acronyms there. So if you are a CEC, Canadian Experience Class, you do not need to show proof of funds. There is absolutely no problem. But you make sure that you have 1 year of work experience in Canada, which is in the last 3 years on a valid NOC code and paid. Payroll running during your education in Canada is not a problem. It's an Indian payroll. Even if you are working for an Indian company, it does not matter. My primary job is in express entry since I have 5 years experience. However, my 1 year of Canadian work experience as a restaurant supervisor made me qualify to CEC. Should I change my primary NOC code? No, you don't have to change your primary NOC code. In this case, it won't matter at all. But do make sure that you have documents to prove your work experience for your primary NOC code, which is establishing your eligibility. You don't have to change your primary NOC. If you wish to change, yes, you can, but you don't have to. All right, guys, last question. I have 8 months of STEM experience, total of 2 years experience in Canada. I have now shifted to a non-STEM job. Do I qualify for STEM category draw? Yes, you do. As long as your work experience in STEM is for 6 months continuous within the last 3 years, 6 months continuous within the last 3 years, you are eligible in the STEM category draw. There is no problem at all. That's it. Thank you so much. Right, guys. It was great coming back and doing this yet again. I have been live now for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Ooh, my throat hurts. Thank you so much for joining in. It was nice catching up with you guys. Nice bringing this to you. Hopefully, we'll do this again next week. Same time. Stay tuned, and I will bring you more when I come back.